Nigeria's drive towards safeguarding individual privacy in the digital space led to the enactment of the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023, giving birth to the establishment of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. This replaced the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau as the primary regulator for data protection in the country. With the country determined to create job opportunities, the Commission is not just looking at protecting personal privacy in the digital space, but creating about 500,000 jobs and generating more than 125 billion naira revenue for the country. How it intends to do this and other mandates of the Commission will be the focus on the spot today. I am Joseph Wilson. Welcome to the program. Now, our guest today is a certified public-private partnership strategist and data protection officer. He holds his bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees all in geography and planning. He broadened his scope of knowledge by acquiring an advanced certificate in computer studies. He has worked in the public sector for about 32 years, serving in different capacities. He joined the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, in 2002, rising to the position of Director, E-Government Development and Regulations Department, and at a point served as Acting Director General of the agency. He is a member of some professional bodies, including Member International Association of Privacy Professionals, Nigeria Computer Society, and Fellow Institute of Information Technology Management, and Director Compliance Institute of Nigeria. On the spot is Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer, Nigeria Data Protection Commission, Vincent Olatunji. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, the Commission replaced Data Protection Bureau.
Yes.
What actually is the difference? What different can we see from it?
Thank you very much. You know, in any government institution, there must be a power creating you. When the former president created the bureau, it was because of the urgency of the need for Nigeria to have an independent data protection bureau. And for us to have that authority to operate, that credibility, that stamp of the law, then we now have the Nigerian Data Protection Act. With the Nigerian Data Protection Act, the right specification there is for the country to have a national commissioner in charge of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. So the law signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, on the 12th of June this year actually created the Nigeria Data Protection Commission and appointed the National Commissioner as the CEO. So the bureau was, where we did have a law, it was by presidential fiat.
What's that protection that this one brings on board?
Now, where we were a bureau, we were operating with a regulation. That was the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. It was issued as a subsidiary legislation to NITDA Act of 2007. So it was not a full act of parliament on its own. And there are some disadvantages to this. One, in terms of enforcement of the law, of the regulation, a lot of people will tell you it is not an act of parliament, enforcing will be difficult. Two, even in times of global recognition, I'll give an example. Last year, we applied to join the Global Privacy Assembly, which is a platform where over 130 data protection authorities globally meet to review activities in the area of privacy protection in their different countries and look at the way forward. We applied, but because we were using a regulation, not an act of parliament, and because we were a bureau We didn't have any law backing us up. They rejected our application. But June this year, when the law was enacted and the commission was backed with the law, we applied and they accepted our application. So globally, a lot of countries will not recognize you. You don't have your Act of Parliament and an independent data protection authority. There are two lists that we refer to in this ecosystem. There is a white list countries, black list countries. If you have your law and your independent data protection authority, you belong to the white list. But if you don't have the law, independent data protection, you belong to the black list. There was a case that one of the NGOs in Nigeria actually took to court because using the NDPR, we developed an implementation framework, and there we listed the number of countries that we regarded as white list countries. The countries in our situation was there where they didn't have their full laws passed by the parliament, assented by their presidents. We also added them as part of the white list because that was our situation then. But one of the NGOs took us to court, and court ruled in their favor that yes, we should not give that level of adequacy. That's what is referred to for a country that doesn't have a law, a law of parliament, and an independent authority because of our situation. So they ruled against us. That was when we were still under the using the NDPR. But now anywhere, any part of the world, we have acquired that global recognition that yes, Nigeria has a law and an independent data protection authority in the area of data protection because of two main things. One, trust and confidence. Trust in the sense that when you make any online transaction, there is trust that that transaction will go seamlessly. And the confidence that yes, I will do it, nothing will happen. Now, if anything happens in the area of data privacy, do they have any way for recourse? Is there any law that can protect them?
You can't hold anybody
responsible. Is there any organization that will say this is the organization in charge of this law? These are things that we now have as a country. And to the largest extent, these are also increase our global reputation. More importantly now that Mr. President is going around the whole world to invest, to attract foreign direct investors to Nigeria. A lot of them. Because we are talking of digital economy, which is global now. Even at the level of Africa, we are talking of African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is all about having a single digital market for Africa. You can't do that without digital technologies. You can't do that without digital identities. And all we are talking about in the area of in the data protection ecosystem is to protect that your digital identity. So now that we have the law, we have the commission, we are also, and the whole world now is Nigeria is serious and they're ready for business. So it's one of among all the criteria that they look into in coming to your country. It's one of them. So Mr. President going around now, like yes, you recall that this was among the first laws that he signed when he came in. Within in less than 2 weeks, he signed this data protection law. And that sends a big signal to the world that Nigeria is ready for digital business. And a lot of them are becoming because they are protected when they have their businesses here. So these are some of the things that were.
Okay, beyond the law, you must have a structure on ground that will enforce this. And I read in one of the dailies where you say that most private sectors don't really. They are very low in terms of data protection.
No, public sector.
Public sector, public sector.
It's
you
better.
said just about 9%?
Yes. Public sector.
So what are you doing? Where are those structures that you going to put it? Because at the end of the day, you must be doing something for the main business.
Absolutely. Well, what we did on an annual basis, we review our activities. So there was what we did in 2022 for 2021. It's clear that the level of compliance in the public sector was just 4%. That was what even led us to visiting the former SGF. And we were able to obtain the memo to all MDs to comply with the provision of the law. And within 2 months of the issuance of this circular, it increased to 9%. Whereas in the financial sector alone, it was 49%. So it's like those in the private sector, they are taking it more seriously than the public sector. Now, our strategy is now to create awareness. We have visited over 70 MDs to talk to their CEOs, the ministers, to let them know the issue around data protection. But one major thing that we have now done, is to have a strategy roadmap. That is data protection strategy Nigeria Data Protection Strategy Roadmap, 2023 to 2027. We have the law now, and we have started implementing some of them. And we have the 5 major pillars of this strategy roadmap, which will guide whatever we are doing going forward. We are looking at governance structure, that is the data privacy and protection governance structure in Nigeria in terms of the law, in terms of privacy statements and privacy policies of organizations. What have they put in place as a governance structure to oversee data processing activities? We are looking at awareness and human capital development, creating awareness, let people know what is right, what is it all about the law. For instance, data subjects, do they know their rights? Data controllers and processors, do they know their obligations to data subjects in terms of accountability? Because as a data controller, a data processor, you are held accountable for any data that you collect, process, share, or store. Number 3 is the ecosystem and technology. What kind of privacy ecosystem do you have in Nigeria? What kind of indigenous technologies, mark my word, indigenous technologies can we develop to meet the requirements of enforcing, of implementing this law? In terms of interpreting the law itself, in terms of enforcement, in terms of investigation, in terms of breach reporting, in terms of penalties, what kind of local solution can we use to drive this instead of importing foreign solutions? This is like creating an economy, an ecosystem that will boost the implementation of the law. The fourth one is funding and sustainability. How do you fund the activities of the commission? Now, in the action plan, we have identified 69 major activities which we want to implement in the short term, medium term, and long term. And we have actually started implementing some of them. And we have identified who does what. Where do people get resources from? What are the roles of the stakeholders there? We have this there. So we are looking at ways of funding these activities. The 5th one is cooperation and collaboration and cooperation. Collaboration with stakeholders within Nigeria, all sectors, regulators, the likes of CBN, NCC, Lottery Commission, National Health Insurance, ministries and parastatals. How do we really work with them to ensure that they actually drive down the issue of data privacy and protection within their sectors, which is really important. Then the area of cooperation, international organizations, development partners, the likes of World Bank, the likes of EU, the likes of African Union. How do we want to work with them to look at what is happening globally and domesticate all these things in Nigeria? These are what we have put in place as our roadmap, as our focus, which we are rigorously pursuing, and we have actually started implementing some of them. For instance, in the area of human capital development, in Nigeria, what we have in our law is that every data processor and controller, that is all organizations that collect and process data, for instance, NTA, for instance, is a data controller. Because they have the data of all the systems. As I'm here now, you've collected my data either indirectly through your CCTV cameras, and even mentioning my name, all this, you have collected my data. Now, what measures have we put in place to ensure that such is protected? So you owe us that duty of care to ensure that the data you have collected is protected. So how do we really work with you to ensure that even for your staff, all the people coming here, your vendors, that you put in place measures to ensure that data is protected? The same thing with all regulators across board. And these are the kind of things we are trying to put in place to ensure that you protect the interest, the freedom, and the privacy of all Nigerians wherever they are.
That's quite a lot of projects. But when you look at things, in Nigeria, most times, when you come up with things like this, people look at the consequences. Basically, look at what we call, sometimes they say body language. Let's look at their body language. What do they intend to do? The consequences are there. Without the consequences, nobody will take that serious.
Absolutely.
Because Nigerians are going to, you just wake up one day, sometimes you see in your phone, somebody just put something with your information. You don't know how, you keep questioning yourself. Yeah. How did they get my information? Where are they getting it from? And all this. So the consequences are there. That if there are consequences there, that when people look at it, they say, no, in Nigeria, it's a no-go area.
Yes, we have consequences in the law. For instance, if it's a corporate body, if there's any breach that is reported to us, what we do is to invite the organization, or we write to the organization saying, we have received this complaint about you, especially in the area of possible data breach. Can you please provide us with this? We'll list out the information that we want from them. When we receive the information, we'll review thoroughly. We'll now invite them to what we refer to as PAC. That's the pre-action conference, to go through all the things they've told us, and we'll have done our own thorough investigation and review of all their platforms. If they have identified breaches, we bring these breaches out to them and let them know these are the things that we have observed and there are consequences to it. Well, it can be, okay, if it's not major, if we say that if the number of data subjects affected are not many. Two, if the impact is not that much, if you do something, maybe you are supposed to do something this way, you are doing the other way. The nature of the data breach, if it's about, for instance, on net data, for instance, if there is any mismanagement of personal data that led to administration of a wrong medication that might have led to death or loss of any part of the body, that is major, that is severe. So the penalty can be very severe. So the penalty ranges from the lowest minimum of 10 million to the highest maximum of 2% of the gross earning of that company for the previous year. And if it's for an individual, the fellow can be jailed for up to a period of 3 years. And these are some of the things that we have to know. And between where we started now, we have actually investigated more than 200 organizations. Some of them are not major, all these digital lending companies that will start circulating information about people. This fellow is a criminal, don't deal with him, this and that. These are some of the things that we have done, but the major ones, we have actually issued penalties. However, we are trying to apply caution in issue huge amount as penalty. For instance, if an organization made about 100 million last year, for instance, we are saying pay 2 million this year. It's huge on the company. And we're also, okay, instead of saying, more importantly, if the impact is not major, instead of paying that 2 million, you say, okay, we look at the amount of your campaign that is reasonable, then we'll take you through compliance, because that's a major focus, not the penalty that we want to issue. Because it has a lot of issues, financial loss, reputational loss. Yeah. Where if you announce any major breach, any major penalty, but it actually happened. There was one organization that we were investigating at the time. When we announced it, their shareholders started withdrawing their shares. Customers started withdrawing their money from there. They were like, oh, they had problems, and let me quickly grab my money before. So what we'll be doing is pay remediation fee. We take you through remediation and we monitor you 6 months and we make sure that you correct what we have identified as that may lead to possible breaches. We actually done this with some organizations, and now when others come, we pull up their portals and we say, look at what you have, look at what this organization that we are taking through compliance has. And by the time you do a kind of I think we need to go back and do proper work and remediation. And that is the approach. That's been so, but there are still penalties for those who have intentionally been involved in data breaches or who have intentionally used people's data maliciously. And more than when we invite you, you are not willing to cooperate with us to take you through remediation, we issue big fines and you have to pay. It has happened with so many multinationals. I'm sure you have heard about Meta, Google, WhatsApp, fines issued to them. Billions. In fact, about 6 months ago, I think, EU board issued a fine of 1.2 billion euro against Meta. Microsoft, FTC in the US, issued a fine of $20 million against Microsoft. So it's all over. Marriott, British Airways, a lot of them have been fined in so many ways.
When you launched this roadmap, you laid some certain concern. It's obvious that we need capable hands to execute this. And you were talking about the certification. And one of the concern was that the certified bodies in Nigeria, most of you who have the reason I got it abroad, and it's quite expensive. And you were talking about if we can get the homegrown certificate body, it will be better, and even it will be better, given that you have other agents that are attached to it. Take us through this. Give us an insight on exactly what you were talking about.
Okay, thank you. Globally, the data privacy ecosystem is just evolving, most especially in developing countries. And the skills to work in this ecosystem is scarce. I'll give you an example. In Nigeria, we have identified about 500,000 data controllers and data processors. And what we have in our law is that each data processor or each data controller must designate a DPO, a data protection officer. Now in Nigeria, those of us that qualifies, who are certified as data protection officers, we are not up to 10,000. Whereas
that was even one of my major concerns with what you were talking. I said, how do you go about it?
They now say 500,000 should employ them. In fact, some of the people that started this journey with us, 4 of them have left. There's a scarce, what they pay big amount of money. Now, with this gap of over 480,000, how do you bridge this gap? It's a major challenge. Do we have the people? The answer is yes. Do we have the skills? The answer is no. We need special skills to be able to work in this ecosystem. So, for my own certification, for instance, it cost more than $1,000 by the time I did it. And I maintained my certificate with about $100 every year. And with the current exchange rate, even the certification alone, that's about 1.2 million. How many Nigerians can afford that? And these are foreign certifications. So what we are now trying to do under our human capital development, which is pillar 2 of our roadmap, is to have a national certification body. But in terms of standard, in terms of quality, in terms of curriculum, in terms of global competitiveness, it should be at par with anyone in any part of the world, or even better. For instance, the certification that we have, and most people have in this sector, is based on EU GDPR, EU General Data Protection Regulation. In our case, the curriculum that we are developing now is going to have an aspect of our law, that Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023,
yes,
an aspect of the EU GDPR, which most people base their own certification on, an aspect of the Malabo Convention, which is like the convention where it was said that all African countries must have their laws and data protection authorities. We are looking at ECOWAS Sovereignty Act of 2010, also mandating all African, West African countries to have their data protection authorities and their laws. We are also looking at our own guide, that is General Application and Implementation Directive, which are developed 5 major documents as compared to one. So by every standard, the quality that we're bringing out will be more than what we currently have with sovereign certifications. Now, in terms of costing, we are looking at crashing this cost to even about 1/3. So if you are looking at 1.2 million, maybe maximum of 400,000, that includes the training and the certification. And the model we have is the certification body will not be training people. We have a licensed DPCOs, data protection compliance organizations, who are experts that we have licensed to take organization through compliance. Part of what the service will be rendering is to train. We are working with committee of vice chancellors of universities. A lot of them have approached us that they want to train. Different universities come, but now we are not dealing directly with committee of vice chancellors, so it covers all the over 200 universities in Nigeria. We are working with National Board for Technical Education, and even independent trainers who may want to come, because we are looking at about 500 people. Our own target is to do like 50,000 every year in the commission, while other private sector organizations can do the remaining 50,000. So at the end of 2027, we have over 500,000 data protection officers. And the good thing about it is that they can work in Nigeria, they can work in any part of the world, because the standard, the knowledge is the same thing. All you need to do is to adapt whatever you have learned to the current situation in any country you find yourself. And that is what we are trying to do. So in terms of quality, it will be higher. In terms of cost, it will be lower. And we are helping in solving a problem that has been identified. For instance, Mr. President has promised that he wants to create 2 million jobs from the digital economy sector in Nigeria. We are now saying that before he leaves office, from the data protection private ecosystem, we are happy and we were able to provide 500,000 jobs, which is huge. You can imagine taking 500,000 youths out of the labor market. So that is what we are working on, and that is why it's a major pillar in our roadmap, pillar 2. After the governance,
this will have to do with a lot of interest.
A lot
of interest.
Yep.
Now, to get people to be interested in that and what they tend to benefit, these are things that will try to get 500,000. It's not easy.
But that's why we are not leaving it to us alone. We are bringing a lot of stakeholders. It's like having a big pot and stakeholders coming in to add value to that chunk, and it's going to be creating wealth for people, for organizations. for government organizations, for private sector organizations who are providing services. Okay. And the target is the privacy, the protection of the rights, of the privilege and freedom of all Nigerians.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vincent Olatunji, Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer, Nigeria Data Protection Commission, for being on the spot.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all right. That is it on the spot today. See you next time. I'm Joseph Woodson. Goodbye.